Hi, I'm Paula de Beer. I work at Fairway Foundation on the topic of living wages. At Fairway we define a living wage as a wage that meets the basic needs of workers and their families for a standard working week and provides some discretionary income, so savings. And ideally this would be the case for the legal minimum wage as well. But unfortunately we see that in the garment producing countries the legal minimum wage is often very far from the living wage. When we're talking about basic needs, we talk about things like food, housing, with basic things like electricity, transport, education, and the costs of all those things are included by organizations that calculate living wage estimates. At Fairway we don't do this because we see that in the end it's crucial that actually trade unions and work representatives are involved in deciding what the living wage should be for a given region or a factory. A living wage is important because it's a human right. According to the UN, everyone has the right to earn a living that is enough to make it a decent living for themselves but also for their families in a standard working week. But besides that, we also see that not earning enough to live off can cause other labor violations in the factory to occur. So for example, people are more likely to work excessive overtime, so overtime that is more than what is legally allowed in the country, because that way they try to make more money to meet the living wage. And for example also workers who earn a decent living and who are not worried about making ends meet are more likely to engage in social dialogues and dialogue with factory management about issues that they might face, instead of, for example, not saying anything or going to a third-party complaints mechanism or riots and worker protests occurring. What's important to understand is that brands don't actually pay wages, brands pay prices, and factories pay wages. They are the employer of the workers. During the pandemic, brands supported their suppliers as well as they could, and what we saw with our Fairway members is they stayed in constant contact with their suppliers to monitor what their needs were and how they could support them in those needs. So for example, there were brands that pre-financed their orders in full, so that means they fully paid everything before the order was delivered. I also know of a brand that set up an extra collection with leftover fabrics, especially to give an order to this supplier, which had lost many orders from other customers pulling their orders in the pandemic. So that's how our brands supported their suppliers in being able to pay wages throughout the pandemic. Since brands don't pay wages, but they pay prices, we worked on a tool to enable brands to better understand what is the labor component of the prices that they pay. So they need to know whether the prices they pay are enough for a supplier to pay a certain wage level. And for that we have developed an app that's called the Fair Price app. And this app can be used by suppliers to create a better insight into the labor cost of the product that they sell. And when they know what is the labor cost of the product that they're selling while they pay their workers a legal minimum wage, they can also calculate what would be the price if they want to pay their workers a living wage. And they can then quote that price to their customers, the brands. And that way, by working with fair price with their suppliers, brands can take their responsibility and ensuring that their prices are sufficient and enable their suppliers to pay a living wage.